Bob Ross and Jar Jar Binks? Holy crap! Heretic, directed by Scott Beck and Brian Woods, the duo that came out with 65 a couple years ago, is back on the scene with a new film. So how was it? Well, let's talk about the categories and give it a score. First off, let's talk about acting. Acting is so incredible in this film at times with certain people. Hugh Grant, of course, is the driving force of this film, this guy who is questioning these girls' beliefs within religion and giving them the questions that they wouldn't necessarily have been asked anywhere else. Sophie Thatcher and Chloe East are these girls who, of course, are from the Mormon religion, who are knocking on people's doors, basically, saying, hey, you want to hear about Jesus Christ? Which he, lets them in, and then everything starts to unfold. Now, I didn't find anything particularly wrong with either of their performances. I just didn't fall in love with their performances either. It's definitely kind of right in the middle where I think it was good and good enough. I just don't think it was great to kind of push it over the edge. When it comes to Hugh Grant, that's a completely different story because I loved him in pretty much everything he's ever been in. Maybe minus Wonka as the Oompa Loompa. Besides the point there, in The Gentleman, he does his long monologue stuff, and in this film, he does it too. It does it well, and it gets you thinking and gets your gears turning. He does an incredible performance all the way from start to finish. Considering this story is very contained in terms of how many characters are in this film, you can only really judge it on the people who are in the film kind of doing their own thing, which is those three. So with Hugh Grant doing really great and the other two kind of doing okay, I'm going to just give it a half a star within this category. Next, visuals. Visuals, of course, is such a hallmark in filmmaking. It's what you visually see. And in this film, you see a lot, but you also don't see too much at times. I do want to give a lot of, kudos to the set design team, the set decoration team, because they nailed it. This film is equally parts inviting and creepy all at the same time, and I commend you for that. The house feels the way it needs to feel. The parts of the house that they explore feel the way they need to, and it's just done very, very well from start to finish in every area they go into. The cinematography isn't bad. It's not bad at all. There are a lot of times where you will see some shots that are just absolutely beautiful, but sometimes shots that aren't beautiful. When it comes to a certain part of the film, it kind of loses a lot of its steam, a lot of its mojo. And what I mean by that is I do like contrast. I like the ability to fully see and fully, kind of engage in a interesting, beautiful way. Even if it's creepy or scary or bad, you can do it in an interesting way. Now, there is a huge chunk of this film that's taking place in a particular area of the house, which I won't get into because it will be spoilery, that is very kind of just bland. I felt myself as watching this film kind of going, it's so dark, and the film is so dark that I'm kind of like, it's too dark. And I'm going to be scared when I walk outside and the lights blinding my eyes. So with that being said, I'm just going to give it a half a star. I still think it's good, but I don't think it's great or outstanding or anything of that nature. Audio, because they did a really good job on this. First off, the score is fairly decent. I don't have any gripes on it, right? Is it memorable? No, but it doesn't need to be. There aren't, like I said, many films don't have to have a score that you remember from days on end. It does help the film, but it's not needed in particular when it comes to certain films. Like I say, with big blockbuster films, I definitely do think you should have a memorable score, but with lower scale films like this, I don't necessarily think you need something like that. Not to say that they don't have music in this that resonates with what they're trying to tell, because they do have a couple songs within the film that get explained over the bigger theme. I appreciate the attention to detail on this because, yeah, it's deep and it's a question that not only pertains to religion, but also pertains to a lot of things within the world, especially in the United States. Its biggest hallmark, its biggest thing that it has going for it is the sound effects. The house feels also like a living organism. It has these ticks and it has these creaks and it has these slams and it has all these things that makes you so fearful of what's inside of this house and what this house basically is. So I give extreme kudos and a tip of my cap for it because it's incredible, it's frightening, it's scary, and it also makes you think, and it's only done through audio. So I'm going to give it a full star out of 1 within this category. Story, because yeah, this film relies heavily on its story, its narrative, and its exposition. You get these long monologues from Hugh Grant's character that explains the reasons why he's doing these things to these girls. And you have these girls who aren't dumb by any means, which is a great thing to have, characters who just aren't dumb and playing into what the plot actually needs it to go through. The twists and the turns that this film takes, even though they're pretty telegraphed and you can kind of tell where the film is heading, it's still an entertaining watch. It definitely gets you thinking about what religion means in general. If you are religious or you're not religious or you're somewhere in the middle, it kind of gets you kind of thinking about everything and what it means to be religious and believe in a God. With all that being said, I do feel like this film falls flat on that concept at the same time. What I mean by that is it just doesn't dig deep enough to the point to where I really think that it's kind of really resonating with me or the audience. It asks a lot of questions and it tells you a lot of things that you probably should be thinking about from time to time, but the film doesn't take that step and that leap of fully embracing what it means within the scope of this film. What I mean is this film just doesn't commit. It doesn't commit on what they're trying to say, what they're trying to go for. And the fact that, like I said, the twists and the turns are a little telegraphed and a little obvious when they come out and what you think is left field, which it actually isn't. It kind of feels unearned and underappreciated. I also didn't know who was making this film, right? I didn't go into the film being like, oh, it's these guys. I forgot this duo made 65. 65 was an atrocious film that had a great concept. So now, again, they have a great concept, but at least this film isn't atrocious. It's, not 65, but it's still not perfect. And I do see that these two have a really brilliant creative mind when it comes to ideas and how they implement them. So I'm only hoping for the best for them and they can keep continuing on and keep improving because I do see bright things for this duo. It's just not yet. So with the story, I'm only going to give it a half a star out of 1 within this category. Enjoyment. I enjoyed it. I mean, yeah, I was glued to the screen. I didn't really look at my phone to see, oh, when is this movie finally getting out? I was kind of, let's go for the ride. And when it ended, I was like, okay, I enjoyed it. That was pretty good. Not gonna lie. But was it great? No. Like I said, there's a lot of issues when it comes to its story, its visual cinematography that they're going for, and overall with the acting, it isn't perfect. It also doesn't help that the character development throughout the whole entire film is kind of stagnant. It does focus on one person in particular for the most part when it comes to the developing of their character. But besides that, that's it. Hugh Grant makes sense, but sometimes his motivations make little sense. One of the girls feels earned when it comes to what she does, and that's great. And the other girl is actually intelligent and figures out what's going on. Overall, I really liked this film, but I just didn't love it. I didn't fall in love with it the way I felt like I would have. if this film spent a little more time on flushing out these characters just a little bit more and fixing that third act. I didn't talk about it within the story category, but the third act, it definitely loses its wheels, and it's kind of strange when it comes to what decisions they make moving forward, but it wasn't too bad where I was kind of hating it. Overall, I think it was good. I didn't think that it was bad in any way, so I'm just going to give it a half a star out of 1 within this category. So if you're keeping track at home, I give Heretic 3 out of 5 stars. I think it's mediocre.